Josh Earnest is the White House press secretary. The president's going to Atlanta today, not to talk about ISIS, to talk about something else. But how much is this crisis dominating their thinking? Watch this.
There will be some additional announcements that will be announced by the administration that represents the kind of whole of government approach the president believes is necessary to confront the threat that's posed by the threat of Ebola. All right, Justin.
Almost said ISIL.
I did.
So they're thinking a lot about this, and one of the big questions is, what does Congress give them? There's no question the president will get the money, it seems, to arm the Syrian rebels, the authority to have the Defense Department do that, not the CIA. Where is Congress on the big question? A separate bill, clear legislation that says, here's the president's authority, here's how much leeway we think you should have, or will it just be snuck into a funding bill?
It's not going to be snuck into a funding bill. The House looks like it's going to vote today on an amendment that is separate from the continuing resolution. And this has two reasons. One's political, and some of the others are policy. It allows members to debate this, and it also allows them to vote. If they don't agree with it, it allows them to vote up or down on this measure. But I think you're right. I think it looks like the president's going to get what he wants, but not without some restrictions.
What kind of restrictions is the big question, Manu? And listen to Rand Paul here on the Senate side. You mentioned it will start in the House with the continuing resolution. That's Washington speak for the legislation to keep the government up and running. We don't pass a budget in Washington anymore. That's so old school. But Rand Paul on the Senate side says, I'm for this. A lot of people think he's anti-war, that he's an isolationist. He says that's not fair. I want to strike ISIS. I want to help the president here, but with some limitations.
If a vote were to come to Congress to ask you to go to war against ISIS and to call it that, would you vote yes?
Yes, but I would try to sunset the provision. I do favor doing something about ISIS. I would vote yes, but I would vote to limit the declaration or limit the authorization to a time period.
How much of a debate and a divide is there? And will this all play out now in this vote now, or are we going to see votes now and then maybe after the election something again?
I think it'll be after the elections, after the House does add this as an amendment to that bill to keep the government open. The Senate's only going to have one vote on this measure, which is going to be the stopgap spending bill, including the Syria resolution. So there probably is not going to be a separate Syria vote in the Senate. So folks like Rand Paul and folks who are up in 2014, those red state Senate Democrats, can avoid taking a vote, a tough vote right now in the middle of this election year. We're going to see them come back after the election. This is going to be a sustained campaign, and there's going to be a fight in order to put a more comprehensive authorization of use of military force, and that's when Congress is going to have a real war debate over the president's authority here.
And this is, forgive me, this is their job, right? This is what they get elected to do, big issues facing the country, war and peace. There's no bigger issue facing the country. What is the tug of war, the tensions between those who say, no, wait a minute, this is what we get elected to do before the president acts, or as the president begins to expand the military action because it's already underway in Iraq? We should have a clear up or down vote between those who say, can we please just not deal with this until after the election?
Well, I think that you have some public support for this. But yeah, you're right. There is a tug of war between those that are up and have to deal with this right away and those who want to put this off. And I think, the leadership is focused on first doing no harm. And particularly for Republicans, they don't want to have anybody voting on anything that's going to cost them an election.
Do no harm to their political standing. Don't have a clear and open and clean debate about a defining moment.
And they want to get out of town very quickly, right, John, so they can go back and campaign and keep their seats.
Not exactly leadership. That's not leadership with a capital L anyway.